I want to welcome you to this forum, and I hope you will find it enlightening, informative, and inspiring. Picture the Homeless has enjoyed a relationship with each of the panelists that you see behind me, and it's been indeed an enlightening and informative experience for us, as well as the inspiration, and I hope you'll be equally inspired. For those of you who don't know, Picture the Homeless has its origins during the Giuliani administration, when homelessness was criminalized, much like today when homelessness by the current mayor is being industrialized. And it takes no rocket scientist to know the demographic logistics that as populations double in a rapid manner that Malthus never would have envisioned. Just 25 years ago, there was only 5 metropolises that had over 1 million people dwelling within. Today, there's about 11, and populations are rapidly increasing and living longer, while land mass is stagnant. So if we leave the current market equation in place without doing anything to change it in a radical and progressive manner, we will see that as land stays stagnant and as populations increase, because of the boundaries of available land space, land use becomes critical as populations increase. So I hope that the panelists before you will give you some food for thought about how we're going to impact upon this equation. There's no way that you can be a Homo sapien and escape the fact that as populations increase and as land stays stagnant, that land use, who controls the land and who gets the use of the land and the benefit of the land becomes a crucial factor for now and for the future. Thank you.
2/3 of the people of families in the United States own their own homes, one way or another, and have bought and paid for them because they wanted to live in them, to use them, not to make a profit on it. Housing ought to be built and can be paid for its use value, not for its exchange value. Non-speculative home ownership, we're calling it. There's no reason why the system can't work that way.
The people who are landless, the people who are homeless, the people that are living in the worst housing stock, the poor people, the poor working people, they need to be in the leadership of this housing movement. And other people need to find some commonality with them and not romanticize about developing commonality with somebody over in Thailand or whatever, because you don't want to deal with your own Thailand right here in New York City. I remember a brother came up from New Orleans, and he was with Common Ground, and he was sitting with a bunch of students at Sarah Lawrence, and they came up with all these schemes. Oh, I could give away my frequent flyer miles, and I could do this and that to help them. And he said, if you walk past a homeless person in New York, don't come down to New Orleans to help us. And I think it's people getting back to their humanity. It's very simple. It's not complicated. What do you want for yourself? Then that's what you should respect other people should get. You want a decent house to live in, then you should expect and support other people's right to do that. But the leadership of it has to come from the poorest people, which happen to be poor working people and people of color, need to be in leadership of the housing movement throughout this country and literally the world. That's who's organizing. The indigenous and the poor people in Latin America, South America, Africa, they're the ones who are going to be leading this struggle, and they're fighting right now. It's not at a low level, it's bubbling up to a high level. Maybe some people in New York might be behind and not know that that's going on, but you need to really read some stuff and really find out what's going on. People are beginning to take things in their own hands.
And what we did as squatters, with some success, is just to make the basic point, look, we're squatting this building next to your building, which is people are, so-called middle-class rent payers and so on. And the reason that it's good that we're doing this is that we're trying to stop the speculation in the neighborhood, because this is like a march, it's like, what was it, Martin Niemöller, They came for the communists, and they came for and then they came for me, like that. Like, to the extent that we can take this building and homestead it as low income and so on, we're helping to forestall this attack on the neighborhood, which is going to affect you eventually. Because, you know, you might be cool with your $800 a month thing now, but they're looking to triple your rent and push you out. So, you know, there's some basis of commonality there. People move with needs or desires. If you can connect on the self-interest thing, then there's also, well, morally it's the right thing to do to support this issue. But there's always a way to connect.
In this country, probably more than any country in the world, housing is such an intractable issue. It's caught up in this whole notion of, you know, locking in private property. It's caught up in this notion of being a commodity, and that's a hard boulder to push. In fact, we were in D.C. just a week ago meeting with Maxine Waters, who's the subcommittee chair on housing community opportunity, with Barney Frank. You know, we could, you know, arguably say we have a much more progressive government than we had, you know, a year ago. And even there, the solutions they're coming up with, they're basically the same solutions under the same framework that we've always had. So what I'm trying to do in my work, and you at this table and others out there, we're trying to really broaden this discussion of housing really as a human right, as a social good. And so
For better or for worse, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but the reality is there's a large number of people who are now being impacted by the housing crisis, and therefore they're thinking about land and housing in a way today completely differently than they were thinking about land and housing in another time. This reality is further complicated by the fact that we live in an extremely sexist, racist, and classist society. So it is very difficult to get white people who are living in middle-income communities to identify with and support the struggle for the rights of low-income black women to fight for their right to housing. And that's extremely difficult, and there's no way to get around that without addressing in a fundamental way issues of racism, sexism, and classism. So I really wish there was an easier way to address this, but I don't think that there is. I think in terms of building a social movement right now, again, for better or for worse, we are hitting at a core issue, land and the use of land. There's no more core issue than that, and it's not some abstract, or that you don't have to take 6 or 7 steps to figure out what the relationship is here between land and this particular surface issue that we're dealing with. You can see that issue directly and online right now, and it's impacting a large number of people. I think with that said, the social justice movement is extremely far behind right now in jumping on this opportunity. There's an incredible opportunity to reframe the issue of land, to reframe the issue of housing as a manifestation of land, and we are not doing a very good job of that right now. And we need to get on the task of taking the frame of this before the other side takes the frame. And once the frame is established, I think that's going to determine in large part in which direction this thing ultimately goes. So I think it's going to be a clear political ideology, a good plan, and a plan which directly deals with the core issues of land and the core